Hola a todo el mundo y bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Sirey. Soy una abogada afro-latina disociada practicando las leyes criminales, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a continuar de hablar de Kouri Richins. Si quieren más video en español, nada más dime allá abajo. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latina criminal attorney who, much like the rest of y'all, has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, you guys, what better way to cut up the monotony of our coverage of the David trial than to go back to one of the other trials that I was covering? So without further ado, my promise to you guys is my promise. Here is our continued coverage on the case of Kouri Richins. So again, if you guys are new here, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for your continued support. If you are returning, you know that I've been covering the Kouri Richins trial on this channel. Now, I already know that Kouri was convicted, but one of my little baby bears, Mary, I'm going to say her name in every video. I want you to feel special every time you hear me say it. But Mare Bear asked me to cover this, and my word to you guys is my bond, right? So let's go ahead and get started. This video specifically, we're going to focus on the continued testimony. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I lying? Not continued, sorry. We're going to focus on the coverage. I'm sorry, what am I saying here? We are going to focus on the trial testimony. Here we go. Of Carmen Lauber. So if you guys have been keeping up with this trial, you know that Carmen Lauber was one of Kouri Richins' former housekeepers. What's interesting to me, though, is that Carmen was also a former drug addict. Now, not to say that to discredit her by any means, but to say this. Whenever you're doing a trial and one of your witnesses in the trial has a less than stellar past, you can almost guarantee that the other side will bring it out unless you do first. Now, obviously there's rules of evidence and rules that prohibit what types of convictions can come in, and you can't talk about certain things or what have you. But it's always smart, in my opinion, for the party that is introducing the witness to talk about the witness's past before the other side has an opportunity to do so. Why do I say that? Because if you put someone on the stand that you know has convictions for multiple other felonies or what have you, that can be introduced into evidence in this specific case, in this specific trial, and you don't talk about their past, when, not if, but when the other side does, it makes you look like you're hiding something. All that to say, the prosecution in this case did a phenomenal job. They put Carmen on the stand. They talked about her past. They talked about her criminal convictions. They talked about all of her, history and such. And then they reframed it and talked about how she's been clean and sober for quite some time.
Do you have a history of drug use?
Yes.
When did that history begin?
Sixth grade, I was smoking pot, and then it just varied up through junior high and high school.
How did it vary up?
Through cocaine, through pot, through mushrooms, LSD, acid, just drinking stuff through junior high and high school.
Did it continue into adulthood?
Yes.
For how long?
For most of my adulthood.
Have you ever sold drugs?
Yes.
Do you have a criminal history involving drugs?
Yes.
Does it involve drug possession?
Yes.
Does it involve drug distribution?
Yes.
Do you have felony convictions for drug distribution?
Yes.
Are you sober now?
Yes.
How long, ma'am, have you been sober?
A little over 4 years.
Is that the longest time in your life since sixth grade that you have been sober?
Absolutely. Except for the time I was pregnant. It's the only time I quit. And then I'd go back to being high. But yes, 4 years, a little 4 years.
Now, what's interesting to me is this. While she was testifying, Carmen stated that she was currently on drug court probation, and she was also on drug court probation throughout her involvement in this case. Now, let's just talk a little bit more about what drug court probation is, okay? So in essence, drug court probation is rehabilitative probation. So meaning, if someone is on drug court probation, should they decide to comply with the requirements of the probation, which typically include remaining clean, testing negative of all substances, curfews, check-ins, whatever, right? Then the conviction will not be entered on their record. It will just not be entered on that person's record, right? So I say that to say, this was a really good chance for Carmen to turn her life around by participating in this drug court probation program. Unfortunately, and as she testified, there are certain things that she did that weren't really becoming of the program.
Are you currently on a type of probation for drug distribution?
Yes.
And are you on a probation for a felony drug distribution?
Yes.
Is that probation in Wasatch County's drug court?
Yes.
What is drug court?
Drug court is where you go in, they give you the tools to rehabilitate yourself. They give you groups, personal therapy, one-on-one treatment. They give you random UAs. They have you complete an MRT book. Just tools to rehabilitate yourself.
When you say UAs, is that urinalysis testing
Yes.
to see if you're hot for drugs?
Yes, we would call in daily, and you would either have a number or a color. And if your color or number was called, you had to get over to 5-minute clinic and do a UA.
And is the idea behind drug court that it's a rehabilitative program under court supervision?
Yes.
And that if you complete the rehabilitative part of the court supervision, there's some benefit to your pending charges?
Yes, it's a plea in advance.
Okay, and a plea in abeyance means it doesn't go down as a conviction.
It doesn't go on your record, yes.
Carmen stated that while she was on drug court probation, she assisted Kouri Richins in the purchase of narcotics. Now, before we get there, let's talk just a little bit more about how Carmen's testimony came to be in this case. I remember when we were discussing the Adelson case, specifically with Catherine McBonwa and with Wendy Adelson, we discussed the different types of immunity that one can be granted for their testimony in different criminal cases or criminal trials, right? And I say that to say, it's my understanding that in this case, Carmen Lauber was also granted immunity. But let's just roll things back just a little bit and let's talk about the different types of immunity again. So you guys are just refreshed on what type of immunity Carmen was granted by virtue of her testimony here. There are two different types of immunity that are typically granted for testimony for criminal cases: use and transactional. Use immunity means whatever you say here on this stand under oath, this testimony that you're providing will not be used against you should we decide to press charges against you. Okay? And transactional immunity is complete immunity, meaning you testify, we're not charging you, period, right? So obviously, transactional immunity is better than use immunity because with transactional immunity comes a complete guarantee that you will not be charged for this specific occurrence. Does that make sense? Now, I say that because I don't want to keep going back into the Adelson case, but if you'll remember, Catherine McBonwa was granted complete immunity, and I don't want to disrespect people, but she decided to say no, took it to trial the first time. It mistried, so she thought she was lucky, did it again, and then got convicted. And now she's spending life in prison because she wanted to be foolish. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, Carmen here decided to take the prosecution up on their offer of complete immunity and testified against Kouri for it. Now, let me just say this, because a lot of people are probably thinking, well, the only reason Carmen testified here is because she was granted immunity. Although I understand that logic, I don't necessarily agree, because it is my understanding that prior to her attorney's involvement in this case, Carmen spoke to the investigators. So prior to getting the immunity, prior to attorneys being involved, she spoke to the investigators. Then at some point, her attorney or she realized, well, hey, I've got 4 cases pending in 4 separate counties. It might be smart to get something out of this, right? So they worked it out after the fact.
Are you represented by a lawyer in connection with your testimony here today?
Yes, I am.
Are you testifying pursuant to several grants of immunity today?
Yes.
Is one of those grants of immunity in a letter from Summit County?
Yes.
One of those grants of immunity in a letter from Salt Lake County.
Yes.
Is one of those grants of immunity in a letter from the federal government.
Yes.
And is there also an understanding between you and Wasatch County, or at least your attorney and Wasatch County, that there is immunity for the gun and the marijuana in Wasatch County?
Yes.
And do you have those 4 grants of immunity because you have committed crimes in connection with this case in all 4 of those jurisdictions?
Yes.
What is your understanding of those immunity agreements?
With proceeding forward with the truth, and there will be no charges filed back on me.
Do you understand that they require you, in order to avoid criminal exposure, they require you to testify today truthfully?
Yes.
Do they require you to testify today fully,
Yes.
regardless of who's asking you the questions?
Yes.
And that if you don't testify truthfully and fully, you could lose all of that immunity?
Yes.
Did your lawyer assist you in getting that immunity?
Yes.
Did he advise you of the potential criminal exposure you face if you lose that immunity?
Yes.
Did you interview with investigators before you got immunity in those cases?
Yes.
About how many times?
6 times, 6 or 7 times.
And over the course of those 6 or 7 times before you had immunity, about how many hours total did you speak with investigators?
Give or take 10, 15 hours.
Why did you speak with investigators before you were granted immunity?
Well, after they told me what I was being held for, sorry, I wanted to make sure it was the right thing to do, if this is actually what happened.
What do you mean, if this is actually what happened?
If they told me that Eric had died of an...
Wentworth, please continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lauber, I just asked you why you testified before you had been granted immunity. And you started to say that the investigators told you that Eric had died. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you please pick up your testimony from there?
When they had first told me that, when they first mentioned that Eric, I already knew Eric had passed away. But when they had mentioned that it was from an overdose, that hit hard. Only for the fact that if that's what happened, I needed to step up and take accountability of my part in this that happened, and what I was asked for. Sorry.
That's fine. Is it fair to summarize, though, that you interviewed with investigators before you had immunity, in part to take accountability for your part in Eric's death?
Yes.
Now, I'm just going to stop for a minute before we get into what else Carmen testified and just give her kudos and her props, because I understand that she might not be looked at as the most favorable witness, or I guess whatever. Everyone has preconceived notions, right? They hear drug addict, drug user, felon, whatever. Everyone has preconceived notions, right? I am giving her every benefit of every doubt that existed. I think she did a phenomenal job on direct. I think she provided testimony that I found credible. I thought she sounded honest and clear. I mean, there were obvious times where I felt like she got confused by the line of questioning, but she just asked for reiteration, and or the prosecution took it upon themselves to reiterate. I thought she did a really, really good job. I'm just saying that because I feel like some of the critiques that I have seen of Carmen weren't necessarily fair. I think she did fine. It is hard for anyone to take the witness stand. And if I'm being honest, I feel like she was the key witness in the prosecution here. And let's get into more of why I feel that way. Carmen testified that Kouri had asked Carmen to purchase drugs for Kouri on 4 separate occasions. Keep in mind, this is all while Carmen is still on drug court probation. Carmen said the first time she purchased drugs for Kouri, she did so by virtue of some woman named Suzanne Culver. She stated that she knew that Suzanne was an active user, and it's my understanding that Suzanne was also doing cleaning services, and she cleaned for a woman named Doreen, who, if I'm piecing everything together properly, was actually Kouri's aunt.
Did Kouri Richins ever ask you to purchase for her illicit drugs?
Yes.
How many times?
4.
Did you purchase illicit drugs for her?
Yes.
How many times?
4.
When you purchased illicit drugs for Kouri Richins the first time, who did you purchase the drugs from?
Susan Kohler.
Carmen said the next morning after she obtained the pills, Kouri went to her home, she met Kouri in the driveway, and Kouri gave her $600 in exchange for the pills she just bought from Suzanne. When asked if she had any sort of text messages or written correspondence with regard to these pills, Carmen said no. She said she deleted everything. When asked why, she said, because I was on probation and clearly distributing narcotics is a violation of my probationary terms, which makes perfect sense to me. Now, with regard to the second, third, and fourth times that she purchased narcotics on behalf of Kouri, she said she obtained those narcotics from a man by the name of Robert Kozier. What's interesting is that during their investigation, officers visited Robert in custody and they interviewed him. And throughout that interview, he maintained that he had no idea what they were talking about. What's also really interesting is that Robert Crozier testified in this case. And in another video, we can get into that testimony if you guys want. Now, all this to say, I think during her direct examination, Carmen did a phenomenal job. I do. I think that she kind of got a little perplexed, let's say, during cross-examination, but we'll talk about that in a separate video. I think that the prosecution knows, and the prosecution probably agree with me, that Carmen was their key witness in this case. And why is she the key? Because they don't have any other connection to put the fentanyl that was purchased in Kouri's hands other than Carmen's testimony. I bought the fentanyl and I gave it to her. And obviously the fentanyl was found in Eric's system. So they needed to close that link in the minds of the jurors. But that's it for this Kouri update, you guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. In the next Kouri video, we'll talk about some of the more testimony that came out throughout her criminal trial. But that is all. Let me know everything it is you need to let me know down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.